Hey everybody, welcome to the PixelBlips Podcast. Greetings from the Midwest, where we're about to get snowed in horribly.
Again.
For like the 8th time this winter. God, I'm tired of winter.
That's okay. We're only like 9 inches above our average for the year.
Yeah, we're going to be, it's going to be spring soon.
Maybe.
Except we've
had
the second week of March.
We've had some of our worst snows after spring has technically started.
Yeah, the worst one was like
March 23rd or 24th or something one year.
And it was like 20 inches of snow, we said. Ugh.
Yep.
Viva la revolution. So anyway, we're going to talk today about some games that you might want to play while you're snowed in. Because unlike any other time of the year, really, you're really stuck inside for a protracted amount of time.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not because you want to be. It is, hey, there's 9 feet of snow at my door.
I can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
Or the roads are so effed that there's just...
It's not worth the risk of going anywhere. Hopefully you went to the store yesterday and stocked up on snacks and
Exactly.
drinks.
You put enough gas in your car. So anyway, the first one we're going to talk about is Pokemon.
Hey, we talked about all that last week.
We talked about that last week. So what we're going to say today is Pokemon is like the easiest time killer.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're not like actively trying to complete the game or push your way through getting the badges and finding everything, you can just sit there and...
The basic mechanics of Pokemon.
Yeah.
The battle mechanics are kind of... but like the basic mechanics of training your guys, you feel like you're always making progress, you're always doing at least something.
Yeah. So, buying not buying monsters, but buying Pokeballs, catching more monsters. You can just have like 800 Pidgeys stocked up in case you, for some reason,
need 800 Pidgeys.
You might want to just fly.
It's always weird that they start you in the grass area. Anyway, so if you want to see more about Pokemon, watch our show from last week. The other thing we're going to talk about, Legends of Zelda. This is always one that I feel like you're never that active in the Legend of Zelda. Even like the recent ones like Skyward Sword or Twilight Princess. Like it's a more relaxed platformer.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. I've always had a real soft spot for the Legend of Zelda games, especially the Game Boy version, Link's Awakening. I don't have the DX version, but I do have...
You know what DX means? I'm better.
Yeah, and it's in color, and it's actually really good. Like I like the intro sequences better.
There's extra dungeons.
There's an extra dungeon or two, and it's a really good game. It's a great way to kill like an afternoon or two.
Yep.
Just going through this game, playing it, is like the music in that game is, even though it's a Game Boy game, the music in that game is still fantastic for a Game Boy game.
And it's hard to not like play Legend of Zelda and feel nostalgic and good about what you're doing.
Yeah. It's just one of my favorite Game Boy games of all time.
Yes. And unlike most RPGs, Legend of Zelda's shorter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean that game
even though that like the new games are really, air quote, really long.
Compared to the original Legend of Zelda or that Legend of Zelda, they are really long because that's like a 6-hour game if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, like 14 if you don't.
Yeah.
But so even the new ones, like they're saying like, oh, the Skyward Sword's the longest Legend of Zelda ever at 50 hours. Like, well, like a standard JRPG now is over 100. So
yeah, because there's all the side quests and the grinding and all that other stuff that you got to do. So
yeah. So my next one is this is Capcom Classics Mini Mix. You guys obviously can't read that label.
It's too small.
And basically retro collections. Because you get like, you can play a little bit of one game and you're like, I don't like this. Jump out to the menu, play another game. I love that.
The Sonic's Genesis collection for the PS3 and PSP and for your Vita also. Yep. That's a great time killer too, because then you're like, all right, I paid $10, I got all these games, and some of them are a couple hours long. Like a Sonic game is only 3 or 4 hours long, maybe. But then they got games like Phantasy Star 4 and the entire Phantasy Star series, to be honest. And then you got like Vector Man and Common Zone
and you pay
things
for
like
stuff
that.
you might never have played that's really good. So I'm thinking Streets of Rage 2, Golden Axe.
Well, I wouldn't say Altered Beast is great, but it's not bad.
Yeah. And there's also stuff on the package that is an oddities that you would never have gone to play. Things like Altered Beast or Golden Axe 2 and 3 or Streets of Rage, the Game Gear titles. I think you.
There's a couple of Game Gear titles on there, yeah. So I mean, it's those retro game collections are always good.
Yeah. And as opposed to the online game collections, your things like your Capcom Arcade Cabinet, Taito released one. There's a Pac-Man one. These don't require an internet connection, which is another thing that goes down often
Yeah,
when
if
you
your
have-
cable goes out, hell, if your power goes out, a portable
Yeah.
console is a lifesaver.
Which is why I always recommend having a fat stack of Game Boy games and
Or-
a nice brick of AA batteries.
Yeah, yeah. Or, if you have a Game Gear, you might need 3 bricks.
Yeah, have that DS charged up and ready to go.
Yeah, or your Vita or your PSP. Like, those are always the best things to do.
Yes.
Even if you're stuck on a plane somewhere, like if you're at an airport and you're snowed in,
Yep.
Vita, plug that thing into the
Or
wall.
if
Hopefully the
you're
power's
going
not
to-
out.
Or if you're going to be at your job and snowed in, like I'm about to be. Uh,
Yeah. Well, you'll be all right.
yeah, I also have a doctor's appointment first thing Monday morning.
That really sucks.
Yeah, it does. So we're gonna see how this works.
So you're gonna post up in the room here and just sleep on the table, or
No, I'm probably gonna go home, but and then get up Monday morning and try and make it into the doctor's office.
we need to hurry up and perfect teleportation.
I know, god damn it. Or those tubes from Futurama.
Yeah. Transfer tubes.
So another game that's good to play when you have just a buttload of time and nothing's going on, fighting games. Because
Yeah.
if you have someone else with you, a lot of people are like, oh, Call of Duty this, oh, Call of Duty that. I always think that's not the greatest thing ever because that relies heavily on an internet connection. So, but we're talking about, couch co-op games.
Yeah.
Most fighting games are still couch co-op games.
Yeah, or something like Brothers on the PS3. It's a short game, but you can totally play that couch co-op. Couch co-op.
Yep. GoldenEye N64, always a popular couch co-op.
Oh, yes.
Mario Kart games, always popular in couch co-op.
Mario Kart games are always a blast. The problem I see with fighting games is now that you are stuck in a house with somebody, you might want to try to kill them if they beat you too much, or the other way around. Like
Yeah.
that would be bad. Like cabin fever might set in way
Well,
too
we
fast.
could go on to the next ones I was going to talk about, which are games that are now not strictly couch co-op, but end up being couch co-op. The recently released Outlast, I can think of that one, where someone watching you play the game is almost as entertaining as them playing the game themselves.
Yeah,
and
it's
you
like
can kinda
like watching a
pass
movie.
the controller around,
Yeah. Single player games where I got next after you die, or
Yeah.
things like that. Like that's always how I used to play games with my siblings anyway. Was hey, I got next. When you die, it's my turn. And or you get to play for an hour and then it's my turn.
I got Next Life on Sonic or something like that.
Yeah.
I think the best games that work like that are games that have divergent storylines. So even something like a Skyrim is really good like that because you guys can decide as a group what you're doing, and then you guys can trade off when you're playing and play one character. It's really good.
An Elder Scrolls game would be awesome anyway. Like
Yes.
even if you're stuck at home by yourself, you've got dozens of hours in just the main story. Plus, it's freaking it's an
And you
Elder
think of
Scrolls
the
game, so you can go around and
GTAs,
steal everything.
Yeah, the GTAs, the Fallouts, those games that are just
Big
freaking
open world
huge
games
are great not only to play by yourself, but to play with someone else riding shotgun on the couch.
It's like your own Twitch plays Pokemon, except just you and your buddy instead of you and 80,000 other people.
Because you guys aren't going anywhere anytime soon. There's no reason,
As long as you still have power, you are set.
Another example I want to throw out there is if you have a PS2, play the Xenosaga games.
Yeah.
Because the cutscenes are so effing long that
You might as well just post up, get
you
some
can
popcorn.
basically go, hey, I'm going to play to this cutscene. I'll call you when it starts. I'll pause it and call you when it starts. We watch the cutscene together.
And then you get to
I'm
play
gonna
to the
get
next one.
Yes. You would have to be snowed in for a very long time to play all of the Xenosaga games, or even all of one Xenosaga game. But
Wisconsin,
yeah, Alaska,
Canada, those places up north. Let's see. What other kind of games would I like to play when I'm snowed in? I mean, assuming you do have internet access, there are hundreds of games. I mean, you could just sit and play tons of League of Legends or Dota 2 if that's your bag of...
play the games that you don't normally play. Like, if you and I were snowed in together, I'm sure it would be last on our list, but Madden 94 is really good to play.
I think I actually have a Madden 92 or 94 or something like that. Yeah, like...
Or Blitz. Play Blitz. Play the things that
I
you're
love
not
Blitz.
normally going to play to take advantage of the fact that there is someone snowed in with you.
Yeah. That's assuming that you're snowed in with somebody. So play the games that you wouldn't normally play, or play the games that you have a fighting chance of winning because you're both equally bad at.
Yes.
Such as a Madden.
Yes.
We would both be so terrible at that game. It would be like, all right, I'm going to play this like Blitz, and it doesn't work that way. You can't just hold the turbo button down and run and jump all the way to the end zone. It doesn't function that way. I wish it did. Really wish it did.
If you're a guy like me and you have a large retro game collection that maybe you don't get to enjoy as much as you normally do, play that when you're snowed in.
Yep.
Also, do your laundry. Snowed-in days are good days to do your laundry.
Yeah.
I remember in college, we got snowed in a couple times when I was in college because the town I went to college in has horrible snow removal.
Yeah.
And it seemed like every year there was at least 3 days that they canceled classes and you couldn't get off of campus.
So those were the 3 days that everybody decided to do laundry.
And man, if you were cooped up for a long time and you were looking for a lady or you were looking for a fella, that laundromat became a singles bar.
Yeah, it did.
I remember one time I was in there, I was like, I gotta get out of here. Freaking, what do they call them? Not hormones, the pheromones.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
Yeah, man, you guys need to be hosed down. Go out and we need to push you guys out in the cold.
Like Andy was saying, if you have a big physical game collection, it's a great time to do it. If you're
organize it.
Or if you're like me and you have a massive Steam collection because of the monster sales that they do, this is a great time to go, man, I'm going to check out not audio. I'm going to check out Stalker because I got it on a Humble Bundle for $8 with 6 other games.
If you've been a PS Plus member for a while.
If you have that back catalog, play some of that stuff.
Last time I was snowed in this winter, I played Metro Last Light.
Was that a good idea?
It's okay. It's still to that point where seeing boobs in video games feels weird.
A little bit.
And forced and awkward. And the story kind of falls apart and goes in a very weird direction towards the end. But, in terms of those Half-Life-like games where it's a first-person shooter that's based on immersive storytelling, it wasn't bad for, 4 or 5 hours.
How long was it?
I think I clocked in at 8, maybe 9.
So the story is about 8 hours long.
Yeah,
8 to 10. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to check it out.
You'll know if you're playing it after you've watched this. You're gonna know when the story falls apart.
And it goes.
Yeah, because you're like, it doesn't. Okay.
I mean, it's a Metro game. It's from what I understand, those games are kind of weird to begin with. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got your Steam libraries, you got your PlayStation Plus libraries, you've got your Xbox Live Arcade libraries if you're an Xbox guy. The Wii Virtual Console. If you want to pay $3 for any of these games, well, a couple of these games anyway, you could definitely drop your $3, get your Legend of Zelda DX on.
It's not $3.
Or $5 or whatever it is.
Recently I went back and now that they posted up a web story that they're closing the online functionality for the Wii and the DS.
And I
was like,
dumb.
I was like, oh my God, no.
So now you gotta go buy.
The stores are still going to remain open. So as long as those stores remain open, I don't need to do a fire sale and get a
whole bunch of virtual
Ogre
console
Battle
games.
64, the person of lordly caliber.
Yeah.
The Knight of Lordly Caliber. That's another thing that brings to mind. Strategy RPGs, games that take you a long time to play, are a good way to play this because you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, Tactic, like Final Fantasy Tactics, the Disgaea series, the Ogre Battle.
Ogre Tactic. Tactics Ogre, I would say if you were going to be snowed in for a while and you only could have one game, Tactics Ogre is the one I would go with. The original Might and Magic series, not... Is it Heroes of Might and Magic that's the Tactics? Because there's Heroes of Might and Magic is the Tactics one.
Yeah, so the Heroes of Might and Magic series, there's a dozen of those games. Now some of them may not run on your PC because they
good old games.
Yeah, GOG, great way to go.
If you have a good old games catalog, if there's a game that someone's, two nerdy guys that do a podcast always say is the best game ever made, like let's say our podcast and Baldur's Gate 2, The Shadows of Amn. Now would be an excellent time for you to go play Baldur's Gate 2, The Shadows of Amn, because you're snowed in. You're going to have a lot of fun playing that game.
Yep.
Also, I'd like to bring up games that are super hard. When you talked about the original Might and Magic series, those games, let's say, let's go through the pantheon of Demon's Souls, Dark Souls.
Dark Souls 2.
Dark Souls 2.
Out soonish.
Wizardry. Might and Magic.
I Want to Be the Guy, the Movie, the Game.
Oh, God.
Unfairly hard.
The Shin Megami Tensei series that is not Persona, because we're going to talk about Persona in a bit. And all those games that are just so mind-numbingly hard and grindy that you would never pick them up any other time unless you had nothing else to do, because you're snowed in and you have nothing else to do.
You could, if you felt creative, you could play something like Minecraft.
Yep.
Minecraft is a great time killer in and of itself.
Or Build with Chrome.
Or I did that. I built my house on the location of my house.
Ooh.
I was like, yes! But it is cool. It's so cool. Oh my God.
Every time I think I want to do it, I remember I'm at work and shouldn't be doing it.
Build with Chrome is like the coolest thing ever.
Yes.
It's like we live in Kansas City and there's somebody who has recreated like 3 city blocks downtown.
Oh, cool.
And it was just like, okay, that's awesome. So,
I hope it's not the Power and Light District.
No, it's further south than that. I'm waiting for somebody to do like Union Station though.
Oh, that'd be cool. Westport would be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool. But yeah, so build with Chrome.
Yes,
in and of itself, it's just like
help us build the world out of Lego.
Because why not?
Yes. If you're stuck in, you're snowed in with maybe younger gamers or maybe your kids. Now's a good time to pull out those Lego games because there's a buttload of collecting in those.
Oh yeah, those are time sinks and a half. Or
here's a better idea. If you're gamers are a certain age like us, and you have little kids that maybe aren't into the games that you loved as a kid, now is a good time to bring those out because the kids also have nothing to do.
They're trapped just as much as you're trapped. So I'm going to make you play these games.
Yes.
Here's Chip and Dale.
Like congratulations, kids. Banjo-Kazooie. Let's play Banjo-Kazooie.
Mm-hmm.
Let's play the Donkey Kong Country N64, which is the worst game Rare. Well, I'm not going to say it's the worst game Rare ever made, but it was definitely the end of everyone's like Rare's the best, blah blah blah. Like that Donkey Kong 64 game.
I'm not saying that it was good or bad.
Collecting Bananas the game.
I'm not saying it was good or bad because I never played that game, but
Donkey Kong Countries aren't high in my esteem anyway. But you could go back and play Donkey Kong Country. If you want to introduce your child, you think they're the right age, you want to introduce them to Final Fantasy. Now is a good time to play Final Fantasy 1 maybe with them, and hold their hand through it so they get used to it. Or share something really big like Final Fantasy 6. If you're snowed in for a week, it's a good time to play Final Fantasy 6.
It is. Or any of the Final Fantasies, really. I mean, any of the 2D Final Fantasies.
I think when you're snowed in with someone that is maybe not your best friend that you've had forever that you always game with, maybe you're snowed in with your wife who doesn't game, now's a good time to look at your collection and go, what games can I play with her? Because she's also bored,
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because when you mentioned that, like my wife actually would prefer to watch me play games because she's not very good at a lot of them. Now she'll play Diablo and stuff like that with me because there's a lot of leeway in those.
Yeah.
But like she watches me play Tomb Raider and she's like, "You stink," and then I die, and it's fun for both of us. And I know that she's just giving me crap because she's my wife and that's what she does. But those kinds of games, especially with the PS4 and the Xbox One, those games are starting to look more and more and more like movies.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun for
it's
her
nice.
because she can watch them and watch the story unfold, and she doesn't have to worry about.
Like for my wife, it's nice. Sometimes I remember Final Fantasy 12 or Final Fantasy 13. The first time I played it, she watched a lot of the cutscenes to get the story.
The gist of the story. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fun for people.
Mm-hmm. And
they can go back to whatever's on their laptop or their tablet or.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of cheated and watched all the cutscenes for StarCraft 2's expansion because I'm more interested in the story of StarCraft than the actual gameplay of StarCraft. I know the story is really thin, whatever. It's a freaking RTS game, but Blizzard being so fantastic at the machinima that they do and the way that their CGI, like their rendering and stuff, like their CGI cutscenes are just awesome. Yeah. So I just wanted to see all of that, and you could do that too. Like you could sit and just watch YouTube videos all day if you really wanted to.
If you're at home with someone who doesn't game, think about games that everyone can play. The Smash Brother game, the Smash Brothers series,
like a Mario Party.
Mario Party. Although Mario Party 1 maybe not so much. You do have to stay indoors with these people.
Yeah.
And share these things share them with people that don't normally game, and maybe you get a little couch co-op out of it, and then they don't want to play the game anymore, and you can go back to playing whatever you want to play.
Yeah.
So stretch your mind muscle when you're snowed in. Instead of going for something that you've played a billion times, go for something that maybe you've never played. Check out a Puyo Puyo game. They're all over the place for every system, and they're all awesome.
Yeah.
Or if you were introduced to it in the Genesis, Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is Puyo Puyo.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Like just sitting there thinking about it, I was like, I thought it was more like columns, but it's not.
No, Puyo Puyo. Go back. This is the time. The games you don't want to play when you're snowed in are games like Persona, specifically Persona 3 and Persona 4, because even though they're huge 100-hour time sinks, they're based around things happening in seasons that you're not in. You don't want to be reminded.
You don't want to be reminded that
in.
that there's tons of so lots of games with lots of snow levels, not so much.
Yeah.
I hate snow. They're almost as bad as swimming levels.
Yeah. Also, maybe you don't want to play games that are going to cause a huge rift between you and whoever's couch co-oping with you. Games like New Super Mario Bros. Wii or Mario Party 1, which we just talked about.
Or, to a lesser extent, fighting games.
Yeah, or to a lesser extent, fighting games.
Like Mario Kart is one thing, but
Yeah.
but I mean, it's not like, I just completely smoked you. There's 6 other players that they can be mad at that are all AI controlled. So
Yeah.
if you're 1 and 2, that's great. But if you're 1 and 8, that's not your fault.
Yes. Also, when you're snowed in, now is not the time to play Farmville a lot because you're going to be wasting a lot of time playing Farmville.
Yeah, because
You'll be waiting for that energy to stock back up.
any Facebook game is probably not a great idea.
Yeah. Also, Animal Crossing is not a game you want to play when you're snowed in because not only are you being reminded that
There are seasons
there
happening.
are seasons happening that are
Aren't-
not snow-packed,
Yeah.
you're also going to be reminded that most of this game doesn't happen on one day. You can't play through...
You can't power through it. Like it is
Yeah.
do some stuff in the morning, come back,
Yeah.
do some stuff, come back. I mean, if you
know,
wanted to play it for
weeks and months and months and months.
yeah,
but-
it is a long-term game. That is a marathon game, not a rush through it and beat it game.
Yes. I would also say if you're at home with somebody, don't play a portable game. If you're by your main systems, play them,
Assuming you have power.
assuming you have power.
If you don't have power, then you're kind of
Asterisks.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
have power. Basically because you can play your portable games in many other environments besides the one that you are now stuck in.
yes. And worst case, if you don't have a portable system and you don't have power, but you have a cell phone, you can listen to the podcasts. You can watch all our old videos and things like that. Shameless plugs, yay!
Okay, so for the last thing, if you are, let's say, snowed in without power, without internet, without your cell phone reception, because sometimes blizzards do happen.
Towers die.
Towers die. Remember board games?
I remember board games.
This is the time you pull out board games because they have nothing else to do either. You have nothing to do.
Yes. So
Put on light a couple candles, throw it on the Monopoly board, or
Monopoly might be a terrible idea though.
If you're
That
playing
leads
with-
to just as many deaths
if
as
you're playing with my
Street
dad,
Fighter.
Monopoly is a horrible idea.
Yeah.
But Uno or
Card games.
Karskakone. What? How do you say that name? I always mess it up.
I have no idea.
Settlers of basically
Catan?
there's Settlers Catan, and then there's this other one, Karskakone,
Which is more or less the same game. You can play games like Strategos. Hell, even checkers and chess.
or Risk.
Again, more deaths attributed to Risk and Monopoly than
One summer, my brother and I played this game we called Ultimate Risk, which you, instead of playing normal, like you would normally resolve the battles in Risk with the dice and the cards occasionally, based on what units you brought into the territory, you would get certain units in Stratego, and then you would play a game of Stratego.
What?
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
So it basically took us all summer.
It's Risk and Stratego rolled into one.
Yes. So we had one board, we had a big table, we had one board, and then the Stratego board next to it.
Oh God, that sounds awesome though.
It took a very long time.
That sounds like it.
Yes. And you have time to kill, so this is the time to play, bust out those old board games. I imagine if you don't have power, Scene It would probably not be the best game to play.
No.
But you know what? If you have a bunch of you, like if your entire family snowed in, catchphrase. Runs on batteries.
Yeah. Just take them out of your flashlight. You don't need them.
Yeah. And the final thing I do want to remind everyone, when you do get snowed in and it is horribly cold outside, wrap your pipes. Make sure your pipes don't burst, because that's really bad when they do.
It's bad times. Yeah, and if you have a fireplace, you're lucky.
Yep.
Because I don't.
So
And
when
it
your
makes me
house,
sad.
so when your neighborhood looks more like ice cap zone than your neighborhood, remember, if you don't have power, reach for a portable, reach for a board game. If you do have power and you have someone with you, think outside of the box. Play a single player game, couch co-op.
Yep.
We'll see you next week.